Hey everyone, welcome to the Saltwater Weekly Update. As you can see behind me, all new flooring got put in here Tuesday night after 2 days of trying to get the old flooring up, and everything's being re-merchandised. Guy has got all kind of new things coming in, especially when it comes to stands and canopies. I want to show you something really quick. This is one of our newest stands and canopies that came in. It is a beautiful black cherry. It's a new color style that we're offering right now. This particular model will fit a 75, a 90, or a 110. But of course we can have one made for whatever size that you might need. But it's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful color, very rich, and you definitely want to check it out. We are right now in what I like to call the golden age of aquarium keeping. In the entire time that I've done this or been involved with this hobby, there's always been all these learning curves, and don't get me wrong, there always will be. But right now it has never been easier to do saltwater aquariums, to do high-end freshwater aquariums, just because of technology and what we know and what we've learned. That's why I think the hobby and the industry altogether has exploded so much in just these last few years. Even in the last 5 years, the gains and the amount of new information that we have, product knowledge, everything has just been enhanced so much that we can offer you a really, really good opportunity if you've ever been interested in keeping saltwater or a high-end planted freshwater aquarium, things that we couldn't do before. And that's why you have so many varied tanks, stands, canopies, things like that. So it's definitely one thing that you want to check up if you're in here, if you're thinking about upgrading, if you've always been worried about whether or not you thought you could do saltwater, we can definitely help you with that. The core of any saltwater aquarium are the fish themselves. Let's get right to it. Okay, our first fish on the list today is the skunk tilefish. We don't normally stock a lot of tilefish because most species like to hide in rubble or they hide very, very low in a reef tank in the base of it, and they don't typically come out as much. This time though, however, we have the skunk tilefish, which is a version that is a bit more social. It's a very cool fish. We don't have very often. They usually live in pairs. They're fairly social in terms of compatibility with other fish. They are definitely a reef fish. They're going to stay more near the bottom of your aquarium. But we got one this week, so a very, very cool fish that you don't see at Fishy Business very often. Okay, the male squareback Ampius. Obviously I show this quite a bit because it is one of my favorite fish for the reef aquarium for a lot of different reasons. The number one of which is that it typically stays out and doesn't hide. It does require a little bit more heavy feeding. Where they come from in the wild, they eat a gratuitous amount of plankton, so they're eating pretty constantly. So if you want to keep weight on them, you got to feed them a little more, I think, than a lot of fish. But it is a very social fish. It will go in a lot of different tanks, less an aggressive tank. You don't want to put them with triggers and things like that. But it is highly adaptable. It is fairly long-lived and a great fish. While we're not huge proponents of keeping butterflies here at Fishy Business, the copper band occasionally is a great fish to keep because it does help very much with the control of aptasia. Probably about 1 in 10, 1 in 20 will actually adapt to regular foods, but if you have a gratuitous amount of aptasia in your tank or little problem glass anemones, a copper band butterfly can really help. The juvenile emperor angel, while this is not what I would consider a reef-safe angel by any means, it is a great fish for a community tank. I even have one in service in a tank with aggressive fish because it does get big. It is one, I think, of the most beautiful and showy large-bodied angelfish, and just a statement maker. It's not super, super expensive, especially in a juvenile form, and what can I say? It's just a fantastic fish. Probably number one angelfish on the list is the coral beauty. This one is very young and has a completely different color scheme than most in terms of the lightness in the center body. Most coral beauties, almost all coral beauties are fairly reef safe. Every now and again you might get one that nips on one particular thing, but it's my number one pick in terms of hardiness. It's my number one pick in terms of survivability, compatibility, and in terms of being a fairly reef safe angelfish. Reagan has been trying to get in as many different species of Ampius as she can find because they really do look wonderful in a reef tank, and they will kind of school together and not put a super heavy load on a tank. These are tricolor Ampius. I have not seen these in a few years, but another beautiful Ampius species. Ampius on the whole tend to keep to themselves. They're not aggressive toward anything. Most things are not aggressive toward them. They kind of keep to their own group and are kind of their own thing in a reef aquarium. All that I have found are reef safe, and each different species brings forth a lot of different color options. Probably one of the most beautiful of the sand sifting gobies, definitely on par with the diamond goby, is the Bella goby. Bella for beautiful. It is a beautiful goby with a lot of striking yellow on the head that runs into a pink body primarily. This particular goby spends most of its time in the sand sifting for little things that it can find to eat. More bottom dwelling, it will typically build a little cave type habitat. But if you want a statement maker, this is a pretty hardy species of goby as well. Although a little bit more expensive than its counterparts, it's a great goby to have in a reef tank. Sailfin tangs are back in stock this week, and definitely one of my top fish in terms of hardiness, in terms of longevity, in terms of compatibility with almost any type of fish. The Sailfin tang is just a wonderful, wonderful fish. It's a great beginner fish after clownfish. You cannot go wrong with the Sailfin tang. Okay, as always, I want to show that we got in Mandarin dragonettes. This is a fish that sells out pretty fast. It's not super expensive, although it definitely has a specific diet that you need to follow if you're going to keep them. However, in the last few years being probably the last 2 or 3, we've been able to easily provide the proper diet for these fish to where almost everyone can have success. I don't think there are very many fish you can find more color and more beauty than the Mandarin dragonet. Okay, while this particular guy might look like an eel, it is in fact still a fairly young engineer goby. Engineer gobies are so named because they like to engineer all the sand in your tank. This particular one has only been here a couple of days, so it hasn't started, but within a week it will have probably knocked down the rocks, digging under them and digging tunnels. If you have a thick sand bed, there's nothing better than an engineer goby to create a type of a ant farm in your tank. A lot of times they do well in pairs or in multiples. As I said, this is still a fairly young goby, but really cool. They all have different markings, and what can I say? It's a great fish. Okay, sold out of them last week and got in another batch this week. These are large blue reef chromas. If you want a kind of grouping fish for around a coral head, if you have a little bit larger tank, these blue reef chromas are really cool. I love the color of black and blue on pretty much anything, and this is a really, really beautiful type of chromas. Okay, so olive snails came in this week. This is a predatory snail, so I would not classify it in any way as reef safe. And little shrimp, you better watch out. These are really cool for aerating sand, so if you've got a fish-only tank, olive snails would be great. What else can I say? It's a cool snail. Pretty shell, definitely fast-moving, and I've got a few of them for the first time. I think Reagan tried to buy all the firefish she could find, because I think she did a pretty good job as she's created her own firefish tank. Maybe you want a firefish tank. This is one of the most peaceful fish. It does very well in a tank. I have these in a lot of different reef tanks. This is a beautiful, beautiful fish. It is not expensive. It's probably one of the cheapest saltwater fish to have as much color as it does. You can see the natural, peaceful way that they are. They feed readily. They come in pretty much with no fear whatsoever. Great little fish. Get asked about these all the time. I can't get them all the time. Pink tile stars came in this week. These are a reef safe starfish. I have never had a problem with in a reef tank. Although starfish are scavengers, and who knows what any one particular one will do. In most cases, I have never had a problem with them. Very, very beautiful, lots of different color and shades of pink. Really cool design as far as their the mottled kind of raised skin on them. Very, very cool starfish. Got in a baby bolatan lion this week. I haven't had any bolatans recently, and it's funny because everybody's complaining about how they're taking over the Atlantic, but I can't seem to get any. So they look beautiful when they're this size. Look how, I mean, it's just the fin work, the fish itself. It's just got to be one of the showiest fish in all of saltwater. While I would not get this for your reef tank, as they will eat anything that they can swallow, it is a great fish if you've got a fish only or an aggressive fish tank. The top 13 spines are venomous, and it is something to watch out for, but a really, really beautiful ornate fish. Beautiful leopard wrasse with a lot of red and green color in it this week. Leopard wrasses a lot of times come in, well, they all the time come in with a lot of different colors. And the powder blue apparently wants him to clean him. However, the leopard wrasse doesn't typically clean. He wants to be by himself, and it is early in the morning with this shoot, so he just came out of the sand. Leopard wrasses, like a lot of different chorus wrasses, bury themselves in the sand, as it looks like he's trying to do. And you can almost set your watch by them. They will just suddenly disappear in your aquarium. You won't be able to find them, and then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, there's the fish. Very, very cool. They do this to protect themselves in the wild from predators. And leopard wrasses are a great, great fish. I love to keep them in reef tanks. Sometimes they can mess with really, really small invertebrates, but for the most part, they tend to do very well. Very adaptable and can be long-lived. I have them in lots of different service accounts. A great fish. Okay, so we are in the process of loading up for the Reef Dreams show in Charleston. That is why I'm not showing you corals this week. You can get your fill. Connor will be there first thing in the morning, Saturday morning, to film a lot of the corals that are there. So that's where the kind of part 2 of the saltwater update is going to come. You will definitely want to watch that video on Saturday. Reef Dreams is in Charleston, as I said. It's the first show of the year we're doing. You can catch it on reefdreams.net. If you want to find out more information about ticket prices and things like that, but it is a large coral show where there will be vendors from all over the United States. It's a really cool show that we do. We set up lots of things as we're packing now to do. But anyway, there's lots more fish here. There's lots of reasons to come by the store. As you can see, there have been changes even from last week. Newsstands and canopies are coming in. As I said, we are in the golden age of aquarium keeping, in my opinion. And having done this for over 30 years, it is really cool to see so many different people from so many facets of life getting into the hobby. So, you need a question for the week to win the $300 prize. What was the goby that I showed you that looked like an eel, that tunneled through and was of an engineering design? So, what was the name of that is your question for the saltwater. God bless. Maybe we'll see you at Reef Dreams. Hope to see you here at Fishy Business. Have a wonderful week.